I still okay? I'm still good over here. I might need to go a little farther. Still be viewable. Viewable. Not too bad. Okay. What? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's a rainy day. What is today? Saturday? All right. It's a rainy day here on the island, so we can come on and chat about a few things to stay out of the cold weather. But we had a good little audience last night. So let's see who's out there this morning. Keeping warm. Okay. Well, let's get into it. So let me make sure. I had to move there. Okay. So this week and this month is all about empathy, empathic drain, sensitivity, hypersensitivity, and how we can start to look at these things differently and stop using them as excuses or weaknesses and really start taking advantage of this human ability that we do have. So when we look at empathy as an excuse to justify why we feel so deeply, instead of as this way to really access information, um, we're looking at or holding on to a weakness that we don't really need to have. And when you view a part of you as a weakness, it's really a space where shame can start to grow because we naturally want to hide these parts of ourselves that are shameful. So, Dr. Romney says that love is protecting and guarding our vulnerabilities in the person that you care about. Now, Dr. Romney's specialty is psychology, but specifically psychology with narcissist or narcissism. So, her viewpoint on love, again, was that love is protecting and guarding vulnerabilities in the person that you care about. And when we look at empathy and viewing that as a weakness, when you try to love yourself, you're not just tired from helping everyone else, you're also tired from feeling everything and from trying to protect and guard this part of yourself or something that you're not proud of. So, what happens if you could get rid of this idea of weakness and stop spending energy on defending it? You'd have a lot more energy to give to people that you really cared about or to invest into creating things and doing things that you really cared about. So, the problem is that love is not just about protecting and guarding vulnerabilities, it's also about inspiring someone, to inspire them to keep reaching for their potential. It's not just this guarding, love can also show up as this way of encouragement when things are tough. So, you already do that though, right? Like you're an empath, you already do these things for everyone else. So, I came across a breakthrough with my own empathy one night when I was out to dinner, and this man walked in closer to close. He was very disruptive right away. He was a little bit rude, but I sensed an awkward kid energy and someone who just didn't know social cues and wasn't intentionally being rude to everyone. But this is like a dimly lit restaurant, $50 plates. It's the place you go to have a glass of wine and a quiet dinner, and here I thought he was just this awkward kid who didn't understand the social cueing of the environment. But the wait staff treated him as the very rude adult that he was showing up as. He went to the restroom. They even came over and asked me if I was okay. And I was in the moment a little confused. I said, "Oh my gosh, no, I'm totally fine. He doesn't mean it. He's not that bad. He just doesn't know what he's doing." And when he came back, he even mentioned he was trying for some personal growth. He had talked to a psychic, and I'd almost given him my card 3 different times, but held back. So when I was on the walk home, I was actually really conflicted. I was concerned I was ethically failing and I should have given him my business card. Here was someone who seemed like they wanted help. But then I was also a little concerned because everyone else in the room, the other adults, were treating him so differently than I was. The wait staff had been very empathic. They even came over to ask me if I was okay in expressing that concern. So, what was this difference, and did I do the right thing as trying to accommodate him? And I realized that people express empathy differently, but why? Why weren't they treating him as the awkward kid? So why was I the only one who was trying to make this situation easier for him and being nice to him when he was showing up as actually pretty rude? So was my, like, vibes about his awkward kid energy, was that wrong? And I was really getting stuck, like, no, I really had this impression about him. I really felt like, no, he's just this, genuine kid who just needs a chance. And I realized, no, that the information you're accessing about somebody isn't wrong. Those vibes that you're picking up when somebody enters a room, that's not wrong. You're just you have the ability to access this other information that's in the room. And when you start to view empathy as this ability to access this other information and treat it as a source of knowledge, you can really start to solve problems differently. You're not stuck second guessing whether or not he should be treated as this awkward kid or this rude adult that shows up in the room. But what I really wanted to know too was how could I do this repeatedly? So this was a pretty set situation, but was there a way that you could use this structure to do this repeatedly? And so what I realized, until we change our belief about empathy into one that's inspiration and encouragement, you're going to continue to take action from weakness when you maybe don't have to. So our beliefs dictate our thoughts, dictate our actions. And from a systems perspective, the actions are some of the most expensive investments that you make because they're at the end of the chain. So by the time you get to an action, you've already invested so much energy into the belief, creating the belief, having the thought, going through a problem solving process, that this action becomes pretty expensive because it's at the end. So, because the beliefs are at the beginning of the process, that becomes one of the most efficient spots to start looking to influence change in the actions. And this is where a lot of people can get stuck because, or they just quit. But because beliefs are stored in a few different areas, and most modalities are really focusing on these conscious approaches of talking through things, but what's really happening is that you're guessing at which events in your life have been most impactful. And then you're trying to talk through every detail of that guess to figure out where this weakness or this holdback, this setback is for you. So, this is especially true if you've been through trauma or systemic abuse. The chances of consciously guessing at a solution to a subconscious or unconscious problem is like 0 to none. And this is actually one of the more beautiful things is that I come across in some of my own work is that it's not always your most traumatic experience that is holding you back. It could be these more innocent types of moments. And what that really means is that getting into deep levels of healing could be easier than you ever thought it could be. So, what the downfall of that is if we're consciously guessing at subconscious and unconscious, um, problems, you're left confronting this pain or this, like, discomfort in these really serious situations and details when that's not necessarily where the belief or weakness lies. So you're doing a lot of re-experiencing pain when you don't have to. So the unconscious and subconscious parts of the brain work and function like an autopilot or programming. They're running in the background. So I worked on autonomous platforms for 15 years. I was an experimental flight test engineer. I did part failure analysis, and then I did some test architecture design for autonomous optical systems. And all of these platforms that I worked on for 15 years were some form of an autonomous platform that went into space or underwater or that flew. So, all of this work required understanding this systems level as a whole and how all of these autonomous processes function, like within the system, as the system as a whole, when the system is failing, or down into the subsystems that make up like a vehicle or a plane, right? You have these subsystems that are part of that. So, in part failure analysis, the idea is to get to the root cause of this problem. So, if the vehicle is failing, I get an engine or a different subcomponent of that system. I've got to look at the whole system as a whole to see how an engine, for example, fit into this specific failure mode. So, when it comes to looking at beliefs and the human system, it's not that complicated. It actually works very similarly to these autopilot types of systems and these autonomous systems. Remember, your beliefs drive your thoughts, drive your action. It's very similar to like an autopilot. You have the programming that drives the physical movement of the vehicle, and you get an outcome, right, of whatever that vehicle may be. It's headed a certain direction. We can turn the direction. So, neuroscience has done a lot of really valuable work to really understand the unconscious and the subconscious in the brain and the nervous system. Just like the brain and the nervous system, the mind also has an unconscious and subconscious systems that run in it. And the good news is that your empathy is the bridge between these two worlds. So, did you know that just like the brain, your mind has different areas? Like, these are understood. I didn't make this stuff up. This is understood and documented uh, in spiritual systems that you have an emotional mind. You have different areas of the mind, just like the brain has different areas. So your mind has different areas, and you actually have an emotional mind. So, as an empath, why do we care about science and all of this uh, autopilot discussion? Is because the ability to feel is in the nervous system and the brain. And because you feel deeply and you feel what other people feel, this takes a lot of energy. And what you're feeling isn't just these physical, tangible things, it's also these other sources of information and energy that are in the room. Remember, empathy is your ability to access information. So I was picking up on this very awkward kid in the room. But why and how was I expressing this empathy differently? It's going to be unique to you and your experiences or your lived experiences. But if you're stuck guessing whether you should be kind to the awkward kid energy or should you be kind to the very rude adult that's in the room, or worse, these autopilot systems just kick in and you default to one or the other, and you never get this chance to decide how to respond. So, do you see how to access your beliefs about this supposed weakness and turn them into your strength can become like your empathy can become your advantage, and kind of an unfair advantage, right? Because with empaths, like you feel so deeply and intensely that you really have this unfair advantage in the room when you could start to look at how that deep feeling becomes an access to information. So I paid a lot of money to understand all of this. I paid at least 1,500 into understanding the human system side of this. This is the kind of the spirituality and the metaphysics of how the mind and brain overlap each other. But I also spent a lot of money, and I don't even wanna think about how much I spent in learning engineering, because the real cost for my engineering was overextending myself in these very toxic environments that knew how to use my empathy against me. So, if you're not deciding how to use your empathy, someone else is. And that's how it becomes this real weakness or our blind side, and why you feel so drained at the end of the day for second guessing yourself about something that you could just know about a situation or about someone. All right. So after teaching all of that and that discussion, do you mind if I try to sell you on this workshop here? Because these are the tools that really changed my perspective on empathy as a whole and really helped me turn it into a unique strength. And this you can do and learn how to do in 7 steps. And so today I have it priced for $200, but what I'd like to do as a part of this workshop is 7 live teachings with the group and have personal homework feedback, as well as 7 live weekly Q&A sessions, and then there will be some sets of personal integration tools as well. So seriously, I've paid a lot of money to try to figure out how to make my traumas and my childhood trauma especially work for me, and I have paid $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, and $10,000 for different courses from people who I really thought had some good solutions that would work for me. So in all of those courses, I have not gotten this level of support, and it's so frustrating to see some of these coaches these days who, like, they don't even show up to the practice or the game. I don't know why they're calling themselves a coach, but neither here nor there. So the workshop is Sovereign Empath. It's got guided audio teachings in it as well. It's on my own teaching platform, so it's not gonna be deleted overnight. And then there's video teachings in there for repeated use, that is me doing it on real life examples with myself in this situation of even this gentleman in the bar. So, if all this did for you was to help create a more confident decision making process in the moment, like would that be worth it to you? Like, if you got peace of mind that you acted with everything you knew and made the most informed decision possible, like, would those tools be of value to you? So, I had 2 choices out of this situation with my empathy was like, I could keep doubting it in the moment and wondering if I made the right decision when everyone else around me was making a different decision, or I could learn the systems that allowed me to know and to take different informed actions with integrity and utilizing my empathy as a part of that. So, what is turning your sensitivity into your strongest ability worth to you? Because the true cost is that you don't get to make every decision twice. And without a decision process that utilizes your empathy, you're left hoping that someone else's answer will work for you. So can you see why that this is a really good investment to learn how to take your empathy and make it one of your strongest abilities that you can use repeatedly over and over again, right? For your success, because we're going to be working with your unique experiences and understanding where those are stored for you and how they're showing up when you go to express empathy. And what that allows us to do then is to make sure that when we're acting from a place of empathy and expressing our empathy, that it's really a safe environment to do it, that it's aligned with our morals and our integrity, and then when we're walking home from dinner at night, we don't have to be left with this internal debate of whether or not I made the right decision. Was that the right decision for me? We've done it real time. We know what we're doing. We understand our system, our decision-making process. We've applied that and moved on. So there's a lot of ways that this turning your empathy into your greatest strength and ability really starts to serve you from being drained and tired and unsure of what to do into taking more confident action and doing that with efficiency and repeatable success. So if you're interested in any of this, hit the follow button. I'll be talking about empathy a lot more. The course specifically is Sovereign Empath, and that's, of course, available on my website there. And super easy to register. The registration form is right there, and you'll have immediate access to that as well. So all of that should happen instantly. I'm a person, I'm real, I'm right here. So I'm still at the computer today as well. If you run into any issues, I'm here. I'm here to answer emails. You can talk to me in the chat. Let me know what you have questions about, or have you even had similar experiences with empathy where you just knew something that other people in the room really didn't seem to act on. I would love to hear these. We're live in a couple places, but I would love to hear what your experience with this might have been and how you think some of these tools might help make your empathy one of your biggest strengths. Or let me know where you guys are from. Well, thank you for the follow. Let me catch up a little bit here. Thank you for the follow, MVF. I appreciate it. Oh, I saw co-host. I don't see those come up when I'm checking. I think I'm caught up. Let me know what questions y'all might have. Hey guys, thanks for joining. I'm just wrapping up the conversation. It was about how to make your empathy a strength. Please let me know if you have any questions. I saw a message pop up, but I don't see it here in the chat. All right, let's check these guys over here. Get on the right screen to see everybody. Okay, we have one question here. Will this overwhelm me? This is kind of a common concern, right? If we've had some serious or traumatic experiences in the past, and the idea of going in and working with those again can seem a little intimidating, but no, Sovereign Rain as a whole is the company, and Sovereign Empath intentionally is set up to be bite-sized pieces of information that are structured to really reduce overwhelm. So you're always in control of the process is also a very important takeaway, that in any type of work like this, You're in control, right? Because I'm moving at a weekly pace does not mean that you have to. That's why I do really like the digital setup. That was beneficial for me specifically, was that other people might have been advancing at a week's pace, but maybe that one took me 2 weeks. So there's deeper levels of work. But if you are concerned about overwhelm specifically, that um, it doesn't need to be a huge concern. The course is structured that way. You can take your time. You're in control of this. And we start off with building from success as well. So this isn't just about targeting the weakness, the weaknesses. We also look to pull in the success aspects into the course. So we get a little break in some of the maybe heavier lifting that might be there for some people. So that's a way that we look to keep balance and keep moving through the system, right? Remember, my framework of love is one of encouragement and motivation. So we're not just protecting and guarding. We also take time to set that down and look how we can inspire and encourage ourselves throughout the process as well. So there's very um, discrete steps within this that help to do that and to keep balance. Let me get back over here. Okay. How much time do I need each week? There's really no minimum requirement for time. The live teachings would probably be about an hour, but some people engage in shorter sessions, and if you need to take longer periods and play back certain things, that's the benefit of having the live and the recorded. So the you know the program is really, or the workshop is really designed to fit into real life and what you're working with. That's also why I provide the live Q&As weekly as well, in case you get stuck or hung up. We don't want you taking more time than necessary. The idea is to save you time, to make this more efficient. Get in, do the work in those deep spaces, and then get out. In flight testing, we call this a touch and go. So you wanna get in, touch on that, get what you need, and get back out. We don't need to spend time raking through all of the details necessarily. Um, so there's no minimum requirement for this, and you'll take the time that you need. That's totally, totally appropriate. These are popping through pretty fast. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, hi guys. Looks like miraculous hand. Hi. I'm not keeping up with everybody who's jumping in, but hello, hello, hello. All right. On this live, we've got. Okay, what if I'm skeptical or analytical? Okay, so we did talk about beliefs. If you're skeptical or analytical toward, I don't know, belief systems or the mind, you're welcome here. I was an engineer. I was also, right, I work in spirituality. So I attract both worlds. I can sense um, some of where this question is coming from. So, right, this program doesn't ask you to adopt my beliefs. The only thing I'm asking you to consider is that your empathy can be your greatest strength and ability. When we start digging into beliefs of how your empathy might be holding you back, it's not that you're adopting my beliefs in those areas, or that we're just walking away from like critical thinking or logical thinking. This is a framework that has exercises for you to test and apply and evaluate yourself. So you're not taking my beliefs and installing them in any of these areas. You're going to do the processing through the spaces that come up that you need to. And then we're going to step out of there. You decide what gets installed, what gets replaced, what gets upgraded. You decide how you want it to work for you. So, whether you're a skeptic or analytical, you're not taking on blind faith here in what Lindsay's opinion is. You're going to develop that yourself in something that you're comfortable with. Something that you're comfortable with and that you trust is something that you're going to believe in and something that you're going to utilize more confidently anyway. Is this therapy or coaching? No. No, actually, no, let me answer that very directly. I am not a medical professional. That does need to be said. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, and I'm not a therapist. I'm not a level of counselor. What I am is a survivor who survived some pretty serious childhood abuse and really wanted a way to look at how all of those traumas and setbacks were really holding me back. I just kept attracting toxic people who seemed to be taking advantage of me, and I was never getting the reward or benefit from all of my effort and work. So, this is a very structured look at how to do some trauma repair, how to make empathy work for you. And the structure comes from a systems way of thinking and some engineering. But what you get out of that is an efficiency of process. So we have a very step by step, 7 step approach to getting through um, the workshop that's educational, that also works with some skill development and clarity as well as application. So uh, it's not therapy or coaching. It's definitely more like guiding you to approaches and through a framework where you're going to look for the places that need some of that clarification or upgrading so that your empathy can truly work for you. Okay, let me check up here. How are we doing, guys, up on TikTok? No, this is just a better setup for TikTok, even though I'm down here. This YouTube live. Okay. Any other questions? I see we've got 2 people there. How are we doing? What questions do you have? Concerns? Let me know. Let me know. Where are you from? Break the ice. Where are you from? Drop a heart emoji if you think you're an empath. All right. Cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And okay, what happens? Let me get this one. Okay, what happens after I enroll? We did touch on this a little bit, but you'll receive immediate access. My teaching platform is called Loomis, and that's how you can access the workshop. And there's just a clear step by step, y'all. It's set up one step after the next one on how to begin. So there's no rush to get started. And I'll have Zoom links in there and a set day and time for the live sessions. And there's no rush to catch up. So this week is orientation week with getting everything situated and organized. And then you can start where you are. There's not a big rush here for the first um, week of getting situated. So Loomis is my teaching platform. You will need to create an account on that. This is not school or Thinkific. This is my personal platform. Because of the nature of work, I wanted a level of stability. And because of my engineering background, I was looking at the other systems and listening to other businesses that had their communities deleted overnight. So private companies can do that, right? They have control over their business, just like you want control over your business. They get to say who they want to serve and do business with. So I did not, because of the nature of work that Sovereign Rain is doing, I did not want to have that risk or liability to having a community get deleted. That's a really good way to induce more trauma is to have people looking at more sensitive areas of life and then have the support get taken away. So my own teaching platform, Loomis, is the solution I came up with to that. And that means that you'll have to create an account. Your information is safe, y'all. I know there's a lot of digital things going on right now, but I'm not selling your information to anybody else. It's just for the email contact and sales purposes that we have information to identify each other. Okay, so I'm not off selling that for for ads. Um, okay, so that is how you enroll. How you enroll. Go to Sovereign Empath on the website. The registration form and payment access is right there. You get immediate access to log into the workshop and to start working through the different steps there. And then next week, we'll have the scheduled time for the live sessions. And then, of course, recordings are pretty standard these days. And it's a really good way to work on your own time frame and not have to drive to an appointment, sit in the lobby. That was my most like, that's my least favorite thing to do is to wait in any like medical therapy lobby. It's just so awkward. Um, yeah. So this way, I mean, even if you're the person that wakes up at 3 a.m. and can't fall back asleep, maybe that's one of your quietest times to work on something like this, or if especially if you have a big family you're taking care of. These digital technologies really help us in that way. Let's see, anything else here? Hey, Johnny. Nothing else in this chat. How are we doing up here? I don't think I see anything else up here either. All right, y'all. Well, I know it's a weekend, but because it was nice and rainy and cold here on the island, we took the opportunity to sit down and stay warm. All right, y'all. All right. Well, thank you for hanging out. I hope you have an enjoyable weekend. I'll be back on a few more times here tomorrow and early next week if you have any other questions, or I'm always available by email as well. Okay. Thank you all. Have a great Saturday, and we'll see you next time. Bye.